Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Susan LoPresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul. This is the podcast where we explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to a woman's life, her health, and all aspects of navigating the midlife landscape. I'm your host, Susan LoPresti, and I'm very honored today to have Michael Tecku with me as my guest. And I want to give you a little bit of information about Michael. Michael raced his motorcycle along stampeding wild horses, fleeting a forest fire, locking eyes with lions feasting at sunset on the Serengeti, and had the barrel of a machine gun pressed against his head in the jungles of Mexico. But nothing compares to the aliveness of pursuing your masterpiece, he says. Michael's rag to riches journey spans decades, a tale so extraordinary that it feels like something an AI might craft for the American dream. His first love was songwriting, a mission of pure artistic expression, but it was a poor product. After years of couch surfing and surviving on food stamps, he sacrificed his guitar for $900 to launch his first company. Part of his soul broke that day, and it took creating momentum to heal it, he reflects. When the music died, Michael was driven by a philosophy of get free first, believing one could not honestly discover meaning until you ascended Maslow's hierarchy of needs. After relentlessly founding 5 different multi-million dollar companies, failing at many, many more, and dabbling with a small venture fund, Michael knew more was no longer the answer. He read philosophy books, roared affirmations with coaches, walked on fire, and became one with the universe with ayahuasca, but still felt like he was stuck on a beautiful carousel. Then one morning, his girlfriend Stephanie woke up blind in her left eye. Multiple sclerosis, an autoimmune disease, was attacking her optic nerve and brain. Terrified and desperate, they were flooded with conflicting advice and miracle cures. With incredible doctors, her vision returned, but Michael felt powerless watching Stephanie force down dozens of questionable supplements daily. He questioned, why wasn't there a curated supplement stack that you could trust was maximally effective? And why the hell wasn't this all in one easy to drink shake? After 3 years of full-time research, he realized aging was the foundational cause of almost all diseases. Your body breaks down faster than it can repair itself because it lacks the raw materials that it needs. This was his theory. This insight was the catalyst for Momentum Longevity Shake, a clinical dose of the top 20 things your body is declining in with age from the highest quality sources, regardless of the cost. Its elite nutrition made it easy and delicious. Momentum has brought music back to my life, he says. It's become his art, and his goal is to help 100,000 people add 10 years of better, longer lives, he says with pride. Fully recovered and fueled by purpose, Michael and Stephanie now live on 20 acres in Wisconsin, working daily to perfect momentum. And so, without further ado, Michael, welcome to my podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm so inspired by your story, and I just want to jump right in. So, let's start from the very beginning. What was going on in your life back then?
That's a big question. I've just been an entrepreneur for most of my life. The last 15 years, I am just continually drawn to try to solve problems, and I'm just curious about learning. I would say that just I've built kind of a philosophy around this concept of growth, not like self-improvement, but expanding my own knowledge and ability and just curiosity, I would say, and just seeing where it leads. And for where I'm at right now, I've started a bunch of companies, sold them, and then kind of retired, and then really just started looking at, well, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? What do I want to spend the next decade learning about and becoming a master of? And that's what led me to this company, Momentum, which is an all-in-one longevity shake that has the top 20 things that your body is declining in as we get older. And I've just gotten really obsessed with the concept of complete optimal wellness being in alignment with trying to live longer at the same time. So
Yeah.
living better longer is sort of the anthem.
So what prompted you to develop this shake? Was there something going on that was going on in your life at that point? Or was it your own personal health or
Well, I I always try to pick impossible goals, or at least impossible to me at the time. And at the time, the most ridiculous thing I could come up with was trying to get a year younger. And so I just started looking into what are the things that people die from? What is aging? And I extrapolated backwards that essentially every day our body is getting damaged from our metabolism, from the pollution, from the food we eat, and every day our body has the ability to repair itself. And what aging is just that damage happens faster than we can repair it. And so then I started looking at what are the things that we're made out of and declining in as we get older. And that made it a lot easier to start kind of building around a protocol. So like we lose our muscle, we lose our collagen, we lose our hyaluronic acid, we lose our NAD. These are the foundational building blocks of our body.
yeah.
And so my theory was if I can just replace those to the levels that I was at when I was in my 20s, my body will have the raw materials necessary to make the repairs. I just fully believe that our body is this incredible machine that can fix itself, but it can't without, the drywall and the bricks and those sorts of things. So you need to give it the blocks to do its job and then kind of get out of the way. I was, just beginning this journey, and I spent like 3 years kind of researching just on my own. I wasn't going to be a business. It was just for me. And what I ran into was millions of contradictory opinions, everyone with their own agenda, and just very little consensus or trust to be found. And in the middle of all this, my girlfriend Stephanie, COVID was just happening. She was trying to run a business and she's just insanely stressed. And then one day she woke up and just couldn't see anything out of her left eye, and later got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And so it really it made it quite real. Before it was this theoretical, wouldn't that be interesting, exploring my own curiosity. And now we had like a mission to try to help Stephanie be able to see out of her eye again and stop this rapid progression of MS. And when you try to figure that stuff out and you go on the internet, there's nowhere, you can't agree on anything. No
Right.
one really understands what's going on, it feels like. So she started taking all these pills and powders and things that I was starting to become more aware of, but it got to a point where she was taking, 30, 40 different things, and we didn't know which ones worked and which ones didn't, but she literally just couldn't swallow anymore. So I started making it into a drink for her so she could just get these things down. And then I started looking at, well, where are these coming from? Is this the best version of this? Is this the best dose? Does this even work? That's when I kind of curated this list really around this thesis of trying to slow aging to increase recovery. And that's how the Momentum Shake was born.
So what are the ingredients in it that you have?
Bas Yeah, so everything is at a full dose of what you would take as an individual supplement, but there's protein, there's collagen, there's hyaluronic acid, there's fiber, there's NMN,
What
there's
is that?
trimethylglycine. Yeah, sure. Which
So
one?
those are the ones I want to talk about because everyone knows fiber and collagen and the other
Hmm.
thing, I forget what the first thing was that you said,
Sure.
but you said NAD and now this. So those ingredients, if you could like elaborate on them a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. So every living thing in the world that has cells and a mitochondria in it use a molecule called NAD. So if you remember back to your biology classes, a cell has the mitochondria, which is like another kind of organism with its own
Hmm.
DNA, but it's the powerhouse of the cell, if you remember.
Right.
And so think of it as like a car engine, and that car engine needs gasoline, right? So NAD is kind of like the fuel that that mitochondria burns to create energy in your cell and then in your body.
Okay.
And as we get older, we lose about 50% of that NAD by the time we get to 50. There's a thing called the Krebs cycle, which is the process of you have that NAD in your cells, you use it, and then it converts into back into vitamin B3 called niacin, and then it goes through this process of turning from niacin to nicotinamide ribosome (NR), maybe you've heard of that, and then into nicotinamide mononucleotide (NMN). And so it's a small version of vitamin B3 that can get back into your cell, convert back into NAD plus. I know that's a big science class we just had, but
Yes.
this is this process that your body's constantly going through. And by the time, women hit menopause, or, men in their late 50s, we just have less of it. And so we produce less energy, we can repair our DNA less, and it's this negative feedback loop of aging. So that is one piece of trying to give your body the energy and the raw materials that it needs just to function well.
Yeah. Wow. And so, how has that helped Stephanie?
Well, I mean, I don't think any one thing is a magic cure. And I
Yes.
think that's
A
sort of
combination
the
of a
ethos
lot.
around a lot of supplements.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So that's why we don't just sell one thing. I don't think one thing works. Just like you wouldn't eat one thing for the rest of your life,
Right.
you need a whole bunch of things all working together in concert. So like when we put in vitamins, we make sure that the partner that goes with it is there at the full dose. So like if you're taking vitamin D3, right? You
Hmm.
can't take that alone. You need to take it with vitamin K2 at the appropriate dose because they work synergistically
Yeah.
to pull calcium out of your blood and then put it into your bones. One of the big things that happens with aging is that our blood vessels start to calcify. And that's by you don't have enough minerals and vitamins to, grab calcium out of the blood and attach to it and convert it and put it into your bones. And so it gets stuck in your veins and your blood vessels, and then those just turn into rocks. And then that becomes a huge negative feedback loop where you can't get oxygen and nutrients to different parts of your brain and your muscles, and those all start to deteriorate.
Hmm.
So we want to make sure that we are solving at a foundational level how your cells function, how your blood vessels function. And if you can do that, then you can prevent the big killers, which are heart
Yeah.
heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, cancer. These are all just symptoms of your body not working properly because you
Right.
didn't give it the raw materials so it could fix itself. What
Yeah.
I don't want to do is individually sell things and then you have to take them all. It's not that you need more information or more things to do. Everyone's busy, everyone's
Yes.
overwhelmed. I want to make elite nutrition easy, right? Like everybody knows what to do, it's just life gets in the way. So my main goal was how can I make this so simple
Yes.
and not just simple but almost desirable. So we made the shake delicious, right? And very clean. There's no preservatives or artificial or even natural ingredients. It's just real cocoa or real vanilla beans that we've extracted and put in the shake. So this is an insanely premium product. This is
Mhm.
like comparing a Ferrari to a bicycle. Everything's at this insane quality level. But the idea is that this is the only thing you need to take. You don't need to take anything else because everything that's important is in here. Because the only way any of this works is if it's easy and you actually incorporate it into your life.
Yes.
So, but I think you made a really good observation about dementia and that women living longer seem to get it more. All of these things are just symptoms of aging.
Yes.
People don't get dementia at 30 because their body is working. So it's not like a disease happened to you. It's that your brain started getting less oxygen. Your brain started getting less magnesium and all these other nutrients that it needed to operate. And it stopped having enough blood flow. So when you look at what dementia is, it's just like, any other function. So like when you have a heart attack, it's because The stuff can't, something is clogged and you can't get
Yes.
the nutrients through your body and the blood stops. When you have dementia, you have things that build up in your brain that every night when you sleep get cleaned out.
Right.
And if those pipes aren't open, they're clogged with calcium, they're clogged with cholesterol or fat or whatever. They get stuck there and then they start to eat away at your brain
Right.
and you just slowly lose function. It's not something that happens all at once. It's like you get a little bit worse every day, and
Right.
then that feedback loop accelerates till it's exponential. And you can look at that for almost anything that we label as a disease. They all just seem to magically happen in older folks. No, it's just aging is the problem. So we need to do everything we can. And you have an older car, things don't run as efficiently as they used to. But if you clean it up and you replace the parts, you can make an old car run really well. And that's the same thing with our bodies. We can't be looking at diseases as individual things. They're all systematic of a holistic thing that you're experiencing living. So if we can fix the foundational parts of you right now, living your best possible healthy life, that is going to prevent or at least delay all these things we label as diseases.
Correct, right. And that's actually the purpose of my podcast is to talk about all the ways that we can stay healthy and continue to live vibrant lives. And a lot of it is very simple. Yeah, lifestyle changes, getting a good night's sleep, for example, like you said. And for women in menopause and perimenopause, sleep becomes an issue for them. And there's a lot that women can do
Hmm.
to improve their sleep, like taking magnesium, like you mentioned, taking an Epsom salt bath in the evening, lowering the lights in your house, eliminating your TV and your laptop a couple of hours before
Hmm.
sleep. And so all of these things help, and supplements certainly do. We need to be eating a really clean diet as best as we can. And it's really challenging because our food system is less than pristine, let's put it that way. So I love the idea that you're making it simple because I always feel that when we complicate things, like, so even dieting, I don't believe in diets. And when I work with clients, I don't want to make their life
Hmm.
harder. I want it to be easier. So
It won't
having
work.
one
Yeah.
shake that combines everything is simple, it's sustainable. You could do that on a daily basis. And I love that concept. It's great.
The concept of the name momentum is not that it's going to solve all your problems, but it'll make everything else you're working on feel easier.
Yes,
So if you're
that's
trying
right.
to lose weight, replacing a meal with a shake that's 220 calories yet provides 30 grams of protein and all the vitamins and minerals you need, so you know at a foundational level that you're covered for the day, that makes it easier you have one less decision to make. Like, is this healthy? Am I counting calories? You don't need to do that. You've replaced a whole meal with this and you've covered all your bases. If you want to work out, having enough protein and energy and being able to recover makes the next workout easier. It seems
Mm-hmm.
less daunting. If you're working out and exercising, getting to sleep is a lot easier, right?
Yes.
If you're getting the magnesium and all these other things that you need to, produce melatonin and get asleep and stay asleep, sleep is easier. If you're getting enough sleep, it's so much easier to stick to a good diet, to not overeat and indulge in sugars. You have just less cravings when you're well slept. If you're well fed, you're in a better mood and you're less stressed out. The thing that causes every other symptom that's happening. So these things all work together, right? And I want to do one thing that'll make all those things easier. So if you can organize your life where it doesn't feel like you're constantly forcing yourself to do something, that you're being pulled to do the right thing, eating healthy should be delicious. It should feel good. This concept of no pain, no gain, that doesn't work. You can do it in short sprints. This concept that healthy has to be worse than the things that you really enjoy, that's not going to work long term. It has to be something you're pulled to and desired. And then you get this amazing positive feedback of feeling better every day. And then everything gets easier and easier and easier. And I think one of the things that the internet and this constant stream of information that we have is it requires endless content, right? And endless
Mhm.
content requires complexity. But these answers are very simple and obvious. You've known them since you were a child,
Right.
and people just need something to talk about and to do. And more importantly, if something is complex, then it means you have an excuse for not having succeeded at it, right?
Hmm.
We create these elaborate diets, we create these insane workout protocols, and the answer is much simpler and quite obvious. Just eat a little bit less, move a little bit more, get to sleep on time. Most people aren't doing those, but those are the foundations. And if you do that, everything else works and is
Yeah.
easy. So if you can just focus on that.
I love it. That's great. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Our lives, like you said, are very busy. Everything's complicated. And to make something as simple as having a shake a day that's going to really nourish your body and give your body what it essentially needs to stay active, to stay healthy, to stay strong is really a no brainer. Where can people find you and the product?
MomentumShake.com.
And
If you were to put all these supplements together, it'd be about $500, $600 a month. We charge $5 a day, and it's an order of magnitude better in quality because I have personally gone out and sourced every single ingredient from the most expensive version of those things. And
Mhm.
then we make everything in-house. So I own the factory, I built it, I own the team. And that's the only way I could get to the quality level that I
Yeah.
wanted. And we third party test absolutely everything. So you don't need to take my word for anything. We have another company that goes and tests for all the heavy metals, that tests for all the toxins to make sure that it's clean. And then on top of that, there are just some things that you don't need to worry about because there are certifications that back up some of these other things. Like we use grass fed whey protein from
Mhm.
Ireland. And as I'm sure your listeners are aware, like when something says it's like grass fed or pasture, like these are not usually certified terms. It can mean a lot of different things.
Yes.
I live in Wisconsin. It's the dairy capital of the world. And for like 8 months of the year, we have incredible grass, but we're under snow a lot of it. So they can't be truly grass fed year round. In Ireland, there's year round grass. It's like one of the few places in the world that can do that. That's why they have that great Kerrygold butter, but it's also why they have the best grass fed protein in the world. And that's like a certification that you can apply for. And these farms, these small farms in Ireland can live up to that, where these cows are outside in pasture at a minimum 95% of the year. It's like
Mhm.
the only place you can do that. So that's just one example of like what we try to do for every single ingredient to kind of, my goal wasn't to make the least expensive thing. I wanted to make the most expensive thing on my side and just try to make something as good as I possibly could. So that's the filter I go through on everything. Like, how can I make this even better? It's like why we import vanilla beans directly from Madagascar and extract our own vanilla when most companies are using some sort of artificial flavor, right?
Yeah.
So we probably spend more on vanilla or chocolate than most people spend on their entire product. And it doesn't make
Wow.
sense financially, but my thought is like if we just make something amazing, it'll kind of sell itself.
Absolutely. Yes. Because once someone sees results, they're definitely going to go back and purchase it again.
Yep.
So, Michael, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
I didn't start getting healthier until I accepted full responsibility for it. And I started making it my top priority. Literally nothing else in life matters if you're not alive to experience it. So for me, being at my best makes everything else I do better. So I make it first in my priority. I make sure I'm not overeating. I make sure I'm exercising. I make sure I'm sleeping. And I'm making sure that I am not deficient in any nutrient. And it's nobody else's responsibility. It's nobody else's fault. I control all of those things. And I have
Hmm.
options on what I put in my body. And as soon as I accepted responsibility for both the successes and the failures of doing those things, everything got way easier because it was super empowering. And it wasn't, like the government or, somebody's food company. It was all these things were my decisions. And where I had failed to, I really struggled with being like 10 pounds overweight for like a decade. And I always came up with these crazy excuses as for why that was. And none of them were my fault. And then one day I decided like, this is my fault. I'm eating too much. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that was fixed. And not being overweight led to having much better blood results. It led to much better sleep. It led to much better mood. It allowed me to exercise more. They're all connected. And yeah, I just took ownership of all those things. So once you can do that, anything is possible.
Yes, absolutely. You have to get serious. I mean, you have to think of it. How do I want to live the rest of my life? Do I want to be overweight, feeling sick every day, no energy, just don't have any zest for life? I know for me, I want to live my best life until I close my eyes for the final day. And I've been like that my whole life. So it's frustrating when you see someone else who is not taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
It is for me anyway. And I try to lead by example and not put my 2 cents in. I just feel like leading by
Hmm.
example, sometimes people will pick up on that and say, yeah, I should be doing more of that. So
It's
anyway,
really hard to
I,
do.
yeah,
My mother has been a diabetic since she was my age. And obviously I deeply love my mother, but it's always been something that was out of her control, something that happened to her, and not a series of cumulative life choices. And because of that, she hadn't taken the 6 months of hard work that it would take to get her body weight under control, to lower her insulin and glycemic response, to not be a diabetic. And instead, she's lived the last 40 years of her life having to give herself insulin and like just all the chronic conditions that go along with being a type 2
yes,
diabetic.
yes,
And it's just been really difficult. I have not been able to get through to her about her own power to heal herself. And, because she thinks it's out of her control, she doesn't do anything about it. But
no,
our health is in our control.
yes,
Quite, quite certain about it. There's so much we can do. And we just shouldn't accept that aging is just inevitable and something that happens to us. In general, the best way to live a very long life is to be as healthy as possible right now. And if you're doing that, you're going to potentially have an extra 20 years of really high quality life. That's if nothing changes in the future. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's happening with technology, but it's becoming exponential. The other thought I had about the concept of momentum was right now there isn't a magic cure to prevent aging, but in 10, 15 years, there's going to be some serious advancements that'll allow us to live an extra 10 years. And maybe 100 is the new average. But by 2050, maybe they add another 10 years. So we have this potential to be on this wave of technological breakthroughs that we can ride out for who knows how long, but we got to be here for it and we got to be at our best. So these next 10, 15 years are so incredibly important. And if you can still be here 15 years from now, I think there's a potential for you to be here a lot longer. So do whatever you take. Take it very seriously. If you love being alive, like I do, having an extra 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of life is not inconceivable.
you want to
There's
have
real
good
potential for that.
health. You want to live
Yes,
longer,
absolutely.
but be healthy. You don't want to be living longer and being sick. And I wanted to mention about type 2
Right. Yeah, that's
diabetes.
not the breakthroughs that we're talking about.
Right. Type 2 diabetes really is a lifestyle disease. It really is.
I would argue almost all of these diseases are lifestyle
Yes.
diseases. There's
Yeah.
genetic components, of course. Like I am
Yes.
way more susceptible to become a diabetic because a lot of people in my family are. But that just means need to pay way more attention to my insulin levels, how much I'm eating, to an extent the things that I'm eating. I don't know if you've ever worn a continuous glucose monitor, but I have. And the things that I eat are important, but not as important as the volume that I'm eating. When I
Mm-hmm.
overeat, my glucose levels just shoot through the roof. And the order of the foods seems to matter too. So like for breakfast, when you break a breakfast, if you just load up on carbs, that carbs are a nice way of saying sugar. Your body doesn't know the difference. I know sugar has become like this devil out there, but your body does not know the difference between a refined carbohydrate like pasta or bread and sugar. It just all comes in as glucose and your
Correct.
body breaks it down. It doesn't care what you call it, right? So I get all these comments that people like what they want to have like a smoothie for breakfast instead of momentum because they don't like that there's 3 grams of sugar in momentum. We use organic coconut nectar for a sweetener, and there's 3 grams. That's the equivalent of about 1/7 of an apple worth of sugar. And so there's like 18 to 20 grams of sugar in an apple, and a cup of berries is like 30 or 40. So like a smoothie could have like 40 grams of sugar in it. And they're like, oh, but it comes from plants. That's where all sugar comes from. And your body doesn't care what the source is. It still
Right.
gets just processed as glucose. So if that's the first thing you eat in the morning, there's nothing getting in the way of that immediately being absorbed and your insulin levels skyrocketing. So if you're going to have carbs, carbs are totally fine. There is no evil food out there. It's the quantity
Yeah.
and then the order. So if you're going to have, pasta, have it with a big meat sauce. So you have a bunch of protein with it. And that'll slow down when people talk about complex carbohydrates, that just means that it takes your body longer to break it down and turn it into glucose,
Mhm.
which means it's a slower insulin response. So if you're having a bunch of carbs, have a bunch of protein with it. In general, the answer for like a really good diet is just have more protein, and then
Yeah.
you will have less of the other things which are calorically dense and metabolically troublesome.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Great advice, Michael. Great advice. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on. I love what you're doing. Good luck in the future. And I will put all of your information in the show notes so my listeners will know where to find you, where to purchase your product. And I appreciate you. I love what you're doing. And the best to
Awesome.
Stefan
If any of the
also.
listeners have any questions, they can. Oh, she's doing much better. It's in full remission.
Beautiful.
She got her vision back. She's it's like it never happened. So we're really
Beautiful.
really happy about that. Yeah, if anybody has any questions about anything, they can email me at mike@momentumshake.com. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.